So the appetizer this week comes from a guy named Adam Wood. I'm going through the change. Welcome to another episode of the Motley Stew Show, where I look back on the week and see what the world has cooked up. Let's see what's on the menu this week. Not too bad. So the appetizer this week comes from a guy named Adam Wood, who's an ex-Pixar employee. He created a short film called Henchman that has now been picked up for a feature-length film. The feature-length version will be produced by Will Ferrell and Adam McKay, so you already know it's got some big names behind it. But here's a little taste of the film.
Sonic Fist! Missile Strike! I am Endgame. And this game is over! No! Oh, no! Every time! Oh, that's bad. Oh, man.
Unlocking mechanism activated.
What? Whoa.
I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to it. Honestly, I've dreamt about having those days where I could walk around in a museum by myself and just play with shit. For the salad portion this week, we're going to look at a place called Red Tail Coffee. A husband and wife opened this shop up for one purpose. They wanted to staff it with homeless and low-income people because they know that it's really hard once you find yourself homeless or in really low-income situations to work your way out of it because no one wants to hire you. So they opened this up in a developing neighborhood. What they wanted to do was show the local community that homeless people are not to be afraid of. They're people first, and homeless somewhere down the ladder. This couple has never run a coffee shop before, but they've managed to do something that most businesses can't do. In the first 3 months, they turned a profit. Currently, there's only one homeless person actually working there, but it seems to be more because the people around the local homeless community doesn't believe it's real. But as word spreads that this is real, I think it's going to take off, and it's going to show that this is a good project for a lot of communities. Moving on to drinks and stupid people. This week, the honor of most stupid person goes to a mom by the name of Janie Lachelle Talley, who filmed her young son doing the fire challenge. For those of you that don't know what this is, it's way more dangerous and way more stupid than the ice bucket challenge that has taken off so recently. The person doing the challenge coats themselves with nail polish remover and then lights themselves on fire. Yeah, that's it. There's no other, that's all they do. Really. So after this video hit the web, the mom was actually arrested and charged with contributing to the delinquency of a minor, which in layman's term is, you're a terrible mother. Stop breeding. Now look, I can understand if your kid goes out and films doing something like this by himself or with his friends, that's not totally on you. But if you're the person actually filming it, yeah, you're a bad parent. Moving on to the main course this week, obviously the biggest story of the week is what was going on in Ferguson, Missouri. Now, if you haven't been keeping up on it, which I don't know how you haven't actually seen anything about this, here's the real breakdown of the story. An 18-year-old African-American boy named Michael Brown was walking down the street in the middle of the street with his friend when cops drove by. They told him to get out of the street. He said basically that he was close to being home and kept going. They, in turn, stopped the car, and then an altercation happened. Now, from that point on, different sides tell different stories. But the main story that seems to have caught on is that the cop drove back, reached out, started aggressively choking or grabbing Michael Brown. There was a struggle, and the cop shot Michael Brown through the door of the car. Then Michael turned to run, and his friend ran away as well. While Michael was running, he was shot twice again. He stopped, went down on his knees, and actually put his hands up, saying, "I've got my hands up, please stop shooting." And then the cop killed him. That's at least the story the residents of Ferguson and the national media are going with. Now, the investigation is still ongoing internally, and now the Justice Department's gotten involved. So who knows what's actually going to come out, but still, the evidence seems to point to this kind of story. So once news of this got out and things started to spread, it started out as a local story, it got to a statewide story, and became a national story. Protests began immediately that night, and of course, they got violent pretty quickly. Now, there's two sides to that as well, but let's just say the police reacted very aggressively, to a community of people that obviously were very upset. It could have been handled a lot differently. So for 3 nights, the Ferguson local police department showed up in militarized fashion with SWAT teams, like heavily armored cars, riot gear, and more than you could ever expect that a local police office actually had. And the residents responded in kind. Molotov cocktails, breaking into stores, looting, basically everything you expect from a mob. Now, as things got worse and worse there and the national attention got hotter and hotter on this local town, the Governor Jay Nixon, after remarks had been made by President Obama about this, decided to remove the Ferguson local police department away from this and replace them with the Missouri Highway State Patrol. Now, there was a marked change after that. The next time the protest started the next night, people not only were not breaking into stores, there was no rioting, no looting, they actually were taking selfies with the cops, and the leader of the police force at that point marched with them. They set up a stage for them so they'd have a place to air their grievances, and they protected them along their march route. This is kind of the way it should have been happened in the first place. But if you remember the fact that it was a local police officer that shot and killed Michael Brown, the local police force probably didn't have a chance to do this in the first place, even if they wanted to. Now, recently, a video has come out of Michael Brown allegedly robbing a convenience store for what sounded like cigars or cigarettes. That video has re-inflamed the protests, but the chief of police said the officer that actually shot Michael Brown was unaware of the convenience store robbery, and the stop on the street had nothing to do with it. It was unconnected. So they can't use that as a defense. Now, some people are actually questioning why this video was actually released. Was it a way to defame the character of Michael Brown, who up to this point was being referred to as a gentle giant? Or, as the chief of police said, it was released because of a Freedom of Information Act, and he said this was just the right time to let it out. Now, not to be overlooked, one of the biggest things that was going on while all the protests were happening was actually reporters were being arrested for covering the story. There was actually tear gas fired at an Al Jazeera network van when they were trying to do their reporting as well. The police walked up after the tear gas spread and broke down their equipment. So this is pretty much a full frontal assault on the First Amendment and the freedom of the press. Now, if there's one way to turn the media against you, that's it. FYI, if somebody went out and decided to build an app that you could look into and say, I wonder if I can actually film police in my local area, this is kind of what it would look like. California? Legal. Maine? Legal. Washington? Legal. Delaware? It's legal everywhere. It's legal everywhere. As recently as Friday night, there were marches and protests again, but this time when certain people came to disrupt it and start looting again, the local residents actually formed human walls in front of the businesses to protect them from those who would try to loot them. It was an actual battle between residents. Now, some people say that those trying to loot the stores were not actually locals, that they were people coming in trying to be opportunistic about the situation. But who's to say? Or one thing that is worth noting is that the locals are trying to stand up for themselves and show that Ferguson is not a place that is just full of violence. Now, to wrap this up, though, I want to point out, if you want to protest something that happened, you want to get a whole group together and do a really powerful protest, you should look at what the USC kids did after the pepper spray incident. Now, if you watch this video, it is dead silent. Not a word spoken, not an aggressive move made, and by far this was the creepiest and most powerful protest I've ever seen. And the best thing about it is you don't give anybody a reason to attack, arrest, or be aggressive towards you. So maybe keep that in mind next time some crap goes down. Now, to wipe the taste of historical racism from our mouths, let's move on to dessert, where we have a 10-year-old blind kid who is a self-taught guitarist and plays the blues. Now, there's nothing like this out there to warm your heart and possibly at the same time to make you feel like the laziest person in the world, because you can't do this. Woo! So moving on to the charity this week, I want to talk to you about the story of Christy Mack. Now, if you haven't heard about her, she was an adult film star who was recently beaten violently and profoundly by her ex-boyfriend, John the War Machine Koppenhaver. Now, according to Christy, what happened was that John unexpectedly showed up at her apartment after they had long since broken up, and she had a male friend over. But when John got there, he beat the hell out of the male friend, forced him to leave, and then proceeded to beat the living hell out of Christy. Now later on, when Christy made it to the hospital, the list of her injuries was severe and extensive. She reportedly had 18 broken bones around her eyes, her nose was broken in 2 places, several missing and broken teeth, a fractured rib, a ruptured liver, injured leg with massive swelling. He also shaved her head with a knife and tried to rape her but couldn't perform, so he decided to beat her some more instead. Now she escaped from her apartment when he supposedly went back into the kitchen, likely to get a new knife to stab her with. She ran out the back door, got herself over a fence into a nearby golf course, and then ran naked through the field until she found a neighbor's house to let her in. Now on the very night of the attack, Copenhaver went on the run. He went to his Twitter feed to say that we only knew one side of the story, and that he was actually lucky to make it out alive, and he had gone there to actually propose to Christy. Now, I don't exactly know how you barely make it out alive when you're an MMA fighter, and this is what she looked like. And then the story got a little weirder when everyone thought he was hiding in Vegas, but they ended up arresting him just recently in Simi Valley. Like, where I live. Not what I expected to hear. So to bring this back to the charity portion, her friends and family have set up a Give Forward account to help pay for her medical expenses. Because, let's face it, people in the porn industry don't have health insurance most of the time. And even if they do, it's pretty expensive because they work in an industry that has very high health risks. At the time of this filming, the Christy Mack Fund had about 70,000 out of a 100,000 goal. There's 88 days left. So I have no doubt they're going to make their goal, but I really think that everyone out there should help. Because no one deserves to be beaten like this, no matter what industry she's in, no matter whether you agree with what she does or not. It's not right. And we should make a statement saying that. And if you do go to the Give Forward page, take the extra step and actually put your name. I saw a lot of anonymous people there because they probably didn't want to be associated with trying to help out a porn star. But remember, just like the homeless person from the earlier story, she's human first. Now, the unfortunate circumstances of the story actually lead us to the something to chew on section for this week. A man got punched and knocked out unconscious when he hit the ground because he dared to actually tell a car full of guys to back off when they were catcalling a group of women in the early morning in Philadelphia last weekend. So here was a guy actually sticking up for women, trying to say they don't deserve to be talked to like that, they don't deserve to be treated like that, and what he gets in response is knocked the hell out and sent to the hospital. So I'm kind of wondering, and I want to know what you think, what can we do to help stem the tide of gender-based violence? What can we do to lower the occurrence of stories like this and Christy Mack's? So that's it. This has been episode 2 of the Motley Stew Show. Thanks for watching. You can like, comment, and subscribe below, and you can see all the links for all the stories that I was talking about. Hope you enjoyed the taste, and as usual, here's a little bit of Logan.
Say bounce, bounce.
Hi. Can you wave hi?
Hi.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Can you say hello?
Hello.
Oh. Oh my goodness.
Now look, I can understand if your kid goes out and films doing something like this by himself or with his friends, that's not totally on you. But if you're the person actually filming it, yeah,